Hello, everyone. Good evening. Okay, please confirm you can hear me.
Hi, Annie, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we start. So we start in 3 minutes.
Hi, Anno, you are echoing.
Okay. Still echoing.
Hello, everyone. Please kindly confirm if you can hear me.
Very, very well. Barista, we can hear you very well.
We can hear you, ma.
Okay, all right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Bidemi, good evening.
Good evening. So I'm thinking the echo is because someone is logged in on Zoom account in across 2 devices. That could be a reason.
Oh, Okay, I think I'm going to tell Anu to check that.
All right, awesome. Have a great session. Bye.
All right, thank you very much. Just to confirm, Wambu, are you on the call? Hi, Wambu. Please kindly give me 1 minute. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Please kindly give us just a few minutes because I need to confirm if our mentor is on this call. I can see her, but she's not responding. So just a minute to confirm.
Okay, ma.
Hi everyone. This is Wanjiru. I work with Wambui and she's joining. She's just having a few technical hitches, but she's joining.
All right, thank you very much, Wajiru. I was just about to reach out to Wambu to check if there's any issues. So
Yeah,
maybe
she's
we
joining.
can. Okay. All right.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So I hope there is no echo, and I hope you can hear me.
Yes, very clear.
Okay. Thank you. So sincere apologies for the technical glitch this evening. We'll try to make up for it with time and just get straight to the point. So uh while we wait for our mentor this evening, I just wanted to reiterate some things and then get our feedbacks. So a number of us already shared their questions, and that would be the focal point for this. But just in case you have any other questions, please do well to ask before the session. I'm not sure we'll be able to take all the questions anyways, but do well to ask so that we can still compile these questions for the other mentors. So from the questions that you have asked, our mentors today will be answering some, and then would move others to other mentors that we also think can attend to them. So please ask your questions. The form has been closed, but feel free to use the chat session to ask your questions. Also, do we have any and this is just us. Okay, if we have any feedbacks, please feel free to drop it on the chat. And I think that our mentor is here now. Uh, yes, she is. Yes, she is. Hi, Wambo. Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you, Anu, and hi everyone. My apologies. I've been having technical issues, but I think now we are good to go. How are you?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much for joining. So I'd love to do a bit of an introduction, but because it's a mentorship session and it's supposed to be interactive, I'd like you to tell us some of the favorite things about yourself and about the work that you do in like 1 minute. So this is like we want to get to know you more than your bio, right? So tell us what you do, just in about 8 minutes. So you have the floor.
Thank you. So something about me. Generally, something about me is I don't like milk, so I don't take milk. Something that I really, really like, the outdoors. So it really just being in nature. And something that really makes me happy. Cats. Cats make me happy. My time is up. Did you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we heard you loud and clear. I apologize
Okay.
for that. My network is lagging. So milk, you like milk, and then you like being outdoors. Okay, so let's just jump straight into the question. Some mentees are familiar with your bio already, and they already shared some questions that they have. I hope everybody can hear me at this point. And with your track record in partnership, fundraising, and things around that area, the mentees have asked questions, you know, and we believe that you would do absolute justice to them. So we'll jump right into it. And one of the questions asked here is, what are the biggest mistakes startups and social enterprises make when seeking fund? So I think before we come into this question, it'd be great to understand your background as a fundraiser and as a partnership person, like someone who connects businesses and nonprofits with partners. Share a bit of your background, doing that, some of the things that you've seen, how you started, and maybe some of your impact so far.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So my background, my academic background is actually in economics and innovation management. So a bit different from what I ended up doing. And I have worked in communications and PR firm, where my main role was being a client service, servicing clients, servicing client accounts. And then it is actually from here that the fundraising aspect of everything, what has been my life for the last 8 years, that is where it was born. And what happened is, as you client service, as you understand, in this case, corporate Kenya, as I grew a very good network also of, corporates, individuals, then I started interacting more seriously with, CSR and, the value that organizations look for when they want to partner. So somewhere in between that, I, resigned from the job that I had, and that is how our first organization, LEA Client Services, was born. And LEA Client Services has been and continues to be a link for corporate Kenya to organizations that are all about impact. So organizations who, for example, need to raise funds. So with LEA, the focus is curating interesting and fundraising worthy, asset worthy platforms to raise funds. So if maybe I simplify that, it basically means, for example, a cancer run, a heart run. So curating that kind of an event, and then LEA Client Services comes and now does the fundraising on behalf of the recipient. And we basically help this organization extract as much value as possible that then attracts a sponsor. Because you must remember that corporates just don't give money. They have many budgets to take care of, but they want to put money where there's, tangible value. So that was now LEA Client Services, where our focus was basically corporate fundraising. Corporate fundraising, making cold calls, activating networks, and we have been doing that for the last seven years. This is our 8th year now. Then 2 years ago, we then got to a point where we started thinking, how can we make fundraising simpler? How can we make fundraising more effective or more efficient? The turnaround time that I'm sure most of you have experienced from when you maybe do an application for the grant or the financial vehicle that you're looking for, and when you even get any communication if you do. So that was the premise behind tuiFUND. So tuiFUND is our organization number 2 born out of LEA, and tuiFUND it's a platform. So what we do is we have organizations come and create accounts on the platform, and then we use some back work that has a bit of coding, keyword matching. It can be manual, it can be technically done, but just ensuring that when you enter your organization and you describe your organization properly. We also help organizations who do not know how to tell their story. We are able to match you with the funders who have agreed, who we have agreed that they form part of the funders, or we are able to match these organizations with an organization that's not necessarily a partner of tuiFUND in terms of funding. So first, tuiFUND is a matchmaking platform, what I have just described. tuiFUND has also been able to attract partnership that has enabled us to train organizations locally on ESG practices. We've also been able to partner with an organization outside in California, and they allow all organizations on our platform to access their digital courses for free. And these courses are basic bookkeeping, storytelling, communications, it's a whole array, accounting, basic, on a very basic level, organizations that are beginning to start off. So tuiFUND has also been able to, provide that service. So, and it is through tuiFUND that I was able to meet Fola. So that's how the journey has been. Now, from the LEA side of things, we have been able to raise for that duration. It could be easily over 600 million, Kenya shillings across different clients, across different activities, for that duration of time. And then now with tuiFUND, we have been able to get a continuous partnership with an organization called Giving Exchange, and they have committed to fund organizations on our platform. So far, we have 6 organizations who have been funded with, I think, minimum has been about $3,000 and maximum is about $7,000. So that is especially one of our really great success story with tuiFUND. And all these organizations were able to get their funding in a considerably shorter time compared to now the good old traditional, grant writing. Another aspect that we are really proud of at tuiFUND is, being able to even attract individuals who want to partner with some of our, the organizations on our platform. Yeah, so I think, Anu, that's how my background looks like. That's how I started. And this is where we have been for tuiFUND in the last 2 years, and LEA, a bit longer, 8 years. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Wambui. I mean, this just goes to show that you are perfect for most of the questions that we have, and we're excited to some of the insights that you'd share with us. So let me start from the last part. And the question here is, how can small organizations with limited networks attract the right partners? And this is because you mentioned networking, matchmaking, and partnership and all. So let's start with that. How can small organizations with limited network attract the right partners?
I think the best way to to tackle that is first to be able to describe your organization. When you say small, are you talking small in terms of staffing? Are you talking small in terms of your intervention area? Or when you say small, just open that a little bit more.
Okay, so we're going to let's take small in terms of size. So for some of the organizations that we have represented here, they are non-profit, some charity initiatives with regular projects, time bound, and not big funding, as you would put it. Like, they're not subscribed to international funding, so they are yet to access international support, and they are just community-based, the grassroots initiatives or organizations. So small in that regard. How can they attract the right partners? And I want to believe they mean bigger partners, bigger than the communities that they currently work in.
Okay, thank you. I see someone with a hand that is raised. Over to you, Anu. Do you want to take that, or I carry on?
Okay, yeah, Eniola, you can go ahead. I believe you want to speak.
All right. Good evening. Thank you for should I say, putting us through this process on how to fundraise and all that. And yes, I was going to ask a question, and I think Anu already mentioned that majority of us say, but I would like to speak for myself. I run a social enterprise, but then the model the organization is currently adopting is that of a non-profit. Reason being that we are yet to put in the structure in place. However, we've been implementing and fundraising through our network of individuals, through our board members, as well as community members. Those are ways we've been fundraising, and I'm just curious to know. I want to know, after fundraising from these categories of people, how am I supposed, as the leader of an organization, supposed to report back to them? Because I've been able to fundraise over 2 million for a particular project, of which if I were to be on a grant, I know I'll be giving is a monetary reporting, monthly reporting or quarterly reports to the donor, all that. But because I've been able to raise this amount of fund, I haven't really directly, or should I say, professionally, give them reporting and all that, except through our annual reports. So how do I report to these people I've been fundraising from, particularly? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eniola. So I'm going to start with the first one that Anu asked, for small organizations that have limited networks, how do you fundraise? And I'm going to take an example of what Eniola has said. First, start with what you have, that is always the best place to start. Start with what you have. And more often than not, we start with our fools, friends, and family. And maybe someone like Eniola who mentioned she has fundraised from within her circles. It's the same thing. The first, when you have a business idea, the first people for most of us is the family. It could be your parents, it could be an uncle, but within your family. Then your friends, there are some of your friends who you have gone through uni together, your first jobs, someone who you can exchange thoughts, friends. And even if I even extend that friendship, in Kenya, we have a Harambee spirit. So people come together and contribute, for weddings, burials, and everything. So friends are your next. And then the others, we like to call them fools, because these are people who may not necessarily even bother to understand what it is that you're trying to propose for them, but then they may have deep pockets or they may have big hearts, and so they will write you easily. They write a check. So friends, family, and fools. But the point is, start with what you have. Second, as a small organization, especially in this time of access at affordable rates to digital media, tell your story. One of the things that we have experienced, especially with tuiFUND, is grassroots organizations that are doing a fantastic job, phenomenal impact. Sometimes you see for yourself, you watch what they're doing and you're completely blown away, but they just don't tell their story. It's one thing to not know how to tell the story. It's another not to tell your story altogether. And I always want to say that as long as you're able to access TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, the very basic platforms, then you can be able to, document something about your organization. It's better to have not the very best stories told out there as opposed to not having anything at all. For small organizations, start with what you have. Tell your story. Like all the organizations on our platform, which is now about 700, most of them, once they fill their profiles, we always have to go back, and try and clean things up. Of course, guided by what, their brand really represents. And the idea is to be able to tell that story. So for you, tell your story. Third, in as much as you can, and when I say this, I say that in cognizant to the fact that some of our organizations on community level are projects that are run out of passion. So you have a woman who wants to help her community by ensuring girls are able to get to a certain level of education. So she starts a home. And while she's running the home, she then has partners who can be able to help in certain trainings. And slowly, a project grows and becomes, a CBO, an NGO, slowly, So this person who is running the organization may not even have had a moment to think about, what am I? What do I want to go? Who do I want to serve? Who do I want to partner with? So as a small organization, in your most simple way, also try and answer those questions. Why are you doing what you're doing? What makes you so different from other organizations that are doing what you're doing? For example, and it's very important for us, even at our organization, is we don't treat ourselves as a non-profit. You know, we don't treat ourselves as an organization that is not interested in generating money. We think of us as businesses in a market space, because at the end of the day, as we are also trying to raise funds to be regranters, there are other organizations. So there is competition. So as a small organization, grassroots, CBO, NGO, please remember that you're operating in a space of competition. So you need to also think about your organization in that manner. And that's where, for example, business models come in. You need to be able to define a business model that ensures that you have, you know, sustainability, even if your sources of funding are, you know, you're still borrowing money, you're still in grants, you're still fundraising, you're bootstrapping. Think of yourself as a business. And I like to say that as small organizations, it is important for us not to, in the beginning, I'm really not one to impress upon small organizations to be profitable, you know, where, like, for example, if you're a social enterprise, you really have to think about the money, the profitability. But for us, we encourage our organizations to at least have some commercial interaction. For example, if you're in the space of community development and you're a public, you know, a public campaigner to members of the public, whether it's civic education, whether it's health promotion, but then your organization is, you know, in that space where you're in the public. Think about what that means. Think about what your organization can create that can eventually generate money, not for profitability, so that by the time you're even speaking with a potential funder, they can already see that you have been able to interact with money. Money is moving, there is liquidity. Because what happens is organizations on our ground, on our level, basically are focusing on, you know, putting your arm out, donor money, grant money. But can we also be able to think of exchange of currency, whether it's B2B, whether it's B2C, as one of the ways that you can be able to attract funding? So I have said, one, start with where you are. Second, tell your story. Third, think about, you know, why you're doing what you're doing. Who is it benefiting and who has optics? Because that's now the category of people who would fund you. Where possible, think of your organization as an organization that is competing, you know, is operating in a space of competition, so that you now think of, you know, establishing some sort of model. And those are some of the courses at tuiFUND that I mentioned earlier that, you know, business owners are able to take at a, you know, it's a short program and it is for free. I think those to me are the three main areas as a small organization. Oh yeah, next is have your eyes and ears open all the time. For example, if you access LinkedIn at any given time, there are always opportunities for learning, and some of these opportunities are actually free. What happens is if you always put yourself to be in a space of learning and a place of networking, so physically putting yourself in spaces where conversations regarding your area of operation are going on, slowly by slowly, you will find yourself attracting funders. Or even if they don't come and fund you, they are advisory. They walk with you through the journey. They recommend. So also put your ears on the ground. We do that a lot at, you know, at tuiFUND and at LEA, actively looking for opportunities that translate to potential growth for us. So also as a small organization, don't think of yourself as being small because your staffing is, you know, small. Sometimes the impact that you're putting out there, well told properly and in a convincing way, could mean a whole lot to a potential funder. So then for you and Yola, what I can tell you is already the funders that you have been able to, that have been able to successfully fundraise your organization, they are a pipeline. So one of the things as an organization, you have to have a pipeline of, who funds you, who funds what. And for you to maintain a pipeline, because what happens is after you have, for example, exhausted these funds and you need to move to the next level on your project, you find yourself going back to your pipeline. So you need to grease your pipeline, whether these are your friends, whether it is family, you need to treat them in the same way as how you, for example, think that if it was, like a grant or, any other financing, how you will do the reporting, When you report to people or individuals or organizations who have funded you, you put together a concise report. It really is taken very positively. And what they do is they see credibility with you as an implementing partner. So I would advise you that if you haven't started reporting, you need to start reporting to them. You need to give them a concise report. It also gives you an opportunity to sell your next project ahead of time, because if, for example, I have funded your organization, Eniola, and you first understand my cycles as a funder. You know that Wambui at this time, they're probably doing their budgets, and I know there's an opportunity to get some funding. So you ensure that your report to me comes around that time or even earlier so that I can be able to discuss. But then your report also has a call to action for me. It could be, we anticipate to be done with this project by this duration of time, and part 2 looks like this. So you strike some interest, and of course, you would be happy to have a conversation to discuss it further. So I'd recommend start putting together your report for your donors, create pipelines for your organizations, and also know where you're likely to go back. So start doing that, Eniola. Thank you. Over to you, Anu.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, can someone confirm they can hear me? It's just okay, great. So, thank you for answering that question. And in your last question, you somehow already answered or touched on some of the other key questions here. You already spoke on how to kind of identify some donors and how to ensure financial sustainability, especially when you spoke about also getting the profitability, out of whatever it is that you do, and starting to look at your whatever your initiative organization, as having competition. These are the things that would most likely relate to business alone, and it's great that our perspective has to change, even as non-profit. Okay, so let's take another question here. Says, what are the biggest mistakes that you've experienced and heard of that startups and social enterprises make when seeking fund? So I think startup here would mean non-profit organizations at grassroots level. What are some of the biggest mistakes they make when seeking funds from donors or partners? And like,
Thanks so much.
how can we, avoid those mistakes as well? Thank you.
Thank you. One of the biggest mistakes that organizations at grassroots levels make is being very nonchalant, not reading. So if you look at the grant application, it's very detailed, it's very specific. Some restrictive, some non-restricted, but they all come needing a whole lot of detail. And for you to be able to even respond to that detail, you need to take your time understanding the organization, so the donor organization, looking at who they have, funded in the past, but mostly critically looking at that document. So find grassroots of organizations, small organizations, just because they've already felt that we are small, you have that little bit of inferiority complex or a lot of inferiority complex. So you just take it like it's business as usual. You fill the form, skim through and send. So that's number one biggest mistake. We have seen it on our end for organizations who, respond to our funding rounds, where you'll find an organization, what they put on their application based on the questions that we have asked. Now, as you start interrogating, you find it is sometimes completely different from what they are doing on ground, Second, some do not respond to what we are asking. So we have had a situation where an organization has got an amazing project, probably the leading one in the whole lot, but then they are answering their own things, something as simple as where are you located, location, and somebody talks about something completely different, So just being in that frame of mind where you know that this is it's a make or break for you. So take your time with those documents, internalize them. Do not misrepresent yourself, Don't assume that it is just an easy process. Don't think it's a small process, have the, become so mega in your application as if your world vision, think in that kind of really macro way of, interacting with the application. But then do not misrepresent yourself, because then a lot of due diligence is done. Now, when due diligence is done and there are gaps, then again, you can get yourself flagged. So let us read through these applications. Secondly, and I think I touched about it, let us seek out these applications. More often than not, organizations are waiting for this to land in their inboxes, to be advertised on gazettes or online platforms, not actively seeking. Nowadays, especially in the space of AI and all the LLMs you have, it's very easy to prompt some of these GPTs to give you a large volume of funding from all over the world. So funders are not just the global north. You will get a lot of funding from Middle East. You'll get funding from Eastern Europe, from Eastern Europe, yes, from Asia, from even Africa. I mean, you come from a country that is top in the continent and even is well ranked in terms of even giving. Nigeria has got, I think Nigeria ranks very high in philanthropy, in the philanthropy spaces. Like when Nigerians give, they really give. So, but then as small organizations, are you tapping into that? Do you even know that there are opportunities for you? So it's important that seek it out also. Then the next thing that I can say that small organizations or yes, grassroots organizations make when seeking funding is not taking their time, not taking time to really look at what an organization is all about. And what I mean is, just because there's funding that is being put out there by, for example, UK Aid, it doesn't mean that, okay, now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a funding proposal to UK Aid. No, take your time. One, understand the cycles, when the fundraising cycle is opened and closed. Pay a lot of attention to that. And also get very granular. Get very granular in knowing specifically where the money goes, what is being funded. Take your time to interact with projects that are funded by these organizations. So you're able to position your organization as an implementer. It can be a consortium within a larger pool of organizations that have received funding to, deliver certain interventions. So take your time with that. I think last but not least, stop limiting yourself. We always have that imposter syndrome. We always feel like we are not good enough. So again, don't limit yourself. Put yourself out there. I think I can summarize them to those four, Anu. Of course, there are so many and they can be specific, it can be personalities. There are people who, for example, do not get a grant, things don't go their way, and they sit down and write and write and write with a lot of rage. So there are those that are personality, but I want to summarize them with just those four top ones.
Thank you so much, Wambui. And I'm sure that we are learning for the mentees that are on the call. I'm sure that we are learning from this mistake, not to be nonchalant, to pay attention to answering questions and going through the document and properly representing yourself amongst some other things that she also mentioned. So I'm going to ask the next question, and they're like two questions in one. I believe you've touched on them, but I'd like us to focus on it. So the questions are: how can we identify the right donor for our cause, and how do we retain them for recurring donations? So we've gotten these donors. How do we identify them and then approach them? And when we do this, how do we retain them so that they can keep supporting our project and it's just not just one off? Yes, so that's the question.
Okay. So the identification, and I think I'm going to use what we have done in tuiFUND as a case study. So for LEA, that's corporate. So that one we knew we only reach out to corporates. For tuiFUND, we have broken down the needs that we have in terms of fundraising. I had said that tuiFUND also is having its own training programs that require funding. So there is that subset, and then there is the larger pool where we call ourselves regranters, meaning we get funding from organizations and then they allow us to fund the organizations on our platform. So again, that's another subset of a fundraising need. Yeah. So for your organizations, it's the same thing. First, break down what your funding needs are. If, for example, I take a CBO that is in the space of economic empowerment, for example. So, when I say economic empowerment, it's across board. So you have overheads, you have implementation, you probably, and the overheads covers labor, it covers operations, and then you have your project implementation. Perhaps you want to do a needs assessment. A needs assessment is expensive. So needs assessment is also there. Maybe before you get into your project, you would want to pilot it. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm breaking down different subsets of funding areas for an organization. And then that helps you to answer the question, how do you get, the funders? So there are funders who absolutely will not touch your overheads, but there are funders who are happy to fund overheads. There are organizations who will only fund implementation. Others needs assessment. So break down those subsets. Again, when you break down the subset, it also helps you work real costs. If you have a whole holistic A to B of the entire funding that you need to run your organization, you're very likely to overlook some key important costs that then come to bite you even when you have received funding. So those break down the subsets, then have your different budgets for the different subsets of what this whole, the whole project is going to look like. And then, work the budgets, like break it down. Let your line items be as clear as day. We have had a scenario where an application has been sent out and the funder is like, we want to see the entire budget, the nitty-gritty, everything. And some of them will point you towards a direction of where organizations that can fund different areas, because some of these funders are consortiums also. So that I would really, really recommend. Break it down, make it completely simple. When you break it down, you might find that electricity is an area that requires funding, but what you probably need a monthly of $200 to run your electricity. And then you're like, oh, we know of these high net worth individuals. Maybe we can approach them to sort that issue. You have already identified that. Then you come maybe to implementation and what the project is. It's a community project. It's, for example, a borehole that is then going to feed water to a community and lift their financial life. Should I say yes? Their financial life, help empower communities through clean water, sanitation, and whatnot. So you've already established that this is a communal project. So as a community, how can you pull through that community to be part of, a fundraising, avenue or vehicle? Because communities also, when they take up a project and when they take ownership, they want the best for it. So you break it down, you break it that way. When it comes to your needs assessment, some organizations are data heavy. Anything that has to do with data, they are hooked. Again, that's organizations that you can reach out to, Even as a grassroots organization, there's still a lot of room for corporate partnerships, a lot of room. So again, look at that whole budget. Sometimes your entire budget can be covered by a corporate. These are not donors, these are corporates. The beauty about them is their money is not restricted. It's not like now when you get into the donor space. So, so I think that is how I can answer that question. Then the only way you will successfully retain your funders is good stewardship, good governance, good reporting, As a small organization, if your funder has not shared a template for reporting, create your own. The same thing, online resources, create an internal reporting tool and ensure that whether it is a direct tool that breaks down the expenditure, it is there, whether it is a monthly newsletter that as an organization you're putting out there. And it can be a one-pager brochure that is saying this is where the project has reached. And, the point with reporting is that it makes you stay top of mind. So, for example, now I have met all of you, and I'm going to say Eniola because I have interacted with Eniola and Anu and Fola on this call. These are three different ladies, all running different organizations. And then I am here and I am a funder. How do they make sure that they stay top of mind, So reporting, good stewardship, governance for the resources that have been, that have been entrusted with you, to change your community or, yes, the intervention. So there is no other way. Retention, it is reporting, and reporting comes under so many ways: through storytelling, through financial reports, through a concept note, through a strategy, through a midterm. So, for example, are you having conversations with your funders where you're telling them this is where we are, this is what our midterm looks like? So different ways, even a greeting, an email greeting that is not, it is not capital intensive. You're not putting any money out there. So yeah, that covers retention. And maybe I can also add, invite your funders to your events. And when I say event, to you it might seem like it's just a small activity that we are going to visit the project and, to just see how everything is going, or we have been able to get some water, so we are going to celebrate that now we have water in taps. Invite your funders. Let them come and see what is going on. Let them see that, they are part and parcel of this project that they are funding. Should they be busy funders? Should be the funders who are donors and funders who are not in the same geographic location that you are? Then now you have to look at other tools that help you with the reporting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wambui. Those answers were really, really profound. And I think beyond accessing donors and beyond attracting donors, also keeping them and the strategies, and we find that there are actually things that, like you said, one of the biggest mistakes, they're actually things that many organizations take for granted, the nonchalance, right? So some of the concepts notes, the proposals, and just paying a bit more attention to details can change a whole lot of things. I mean, you've answered most of the questions that we have here. I don't know if that's for fundraising and partnerships. I don't know if anyone
I think I've lost you, Anu.
else has any question. So I'm going to like their questions. So does anyone have something, your questions regarding fundraising? Quite a number of us had it on our what's it called? Had it on our forms that fundraising was a major challenge, to projects to executing projects and stuff. So it's a good time to answer or to ask your questions. So I have this particular question in mind, and the question is going to be, aside fundraising or aside, partners, are there any other strategies to look out for, for seamless project execution? So I mean, you're working with grassroots, you're working on projects. So let's make sure that we mute our mic. Are there other strategies? I know that funds are important, but are there alternatives? Are there things that we can also look out for to leverage on to execute our project? And if we do not have any questions after this, if nobody raises up their hands, we're just going to call it nice. So I'm saying this so that we can raise our hands and ask our questions. You have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, in the absence of funds, you should not stop with your operations. I have seen and I have experienced great partnerships at grassroots levels. So, so you have different grassroots organizations, different CBOs coming together because of, the challenge of being able to raise funds. And then they are able to, for example, attract funds that come from government. And and when I say they attract funds, it's not like monetary. It could be a project that is being implemented by a government arm. The funding is there, but then they are looking for implementation. So if let's say you are in Bidari, or let's say you run an organization where women are working with handicrafts and everything, but you don't have money to directly sustain this project. But then you and other grassroots organizations that are in this space come together to keep everything running, because maybe like ministries in government or parastatals in government, in this case, for example, in the Ministry of Sports, are interested in engaging implementing partners on ground. So there's not going to be flow of money, but then the overheads and the cost of producing whatever needs to be produced is taking place. So sometimes it's not just, about money. Others is also looking at, other organizations, like for example, the Rotary as an organization, and I mean Rotary is present in most countries worldwide. So as a grassroots organization, are you synced? Are you connected to, for example, Rotary clubs in your area, because they are able to access funding in terms of global grants and also within the country grants? And Rotary does not implement anything. So no club is going to be implementing a project, but then they will work with organizations who are implementing, who are in the community. So again, another organization, no funding, no direct funding, but then you're an implementing partner. The other way that you can, for example, even perhaps this can even raise money is as small organizations coming together because you find synergies in the things you're doing. Are you having conversations? This kind of conversations can translate to even, papers that can be written and published, which can also generate some little income for our organizations. So it's really just being creative with what is available, going an extra mile and trying to get, ideas, and not just confining yourself to, now because we were not able to raise that $5,000 that we needed, I think we now need to tell our women or our men or the youth that we are closing, they have to go home. So let's get, more and more creative. Thank you so much. I can see Sunusi and Stella's hands are up. Maybe we can start with you, Sunusi.
Good evening, ma'am. Actually, my question is regarding to linkage and collaboration. Some partners want to ask for the consortium 3 times. When you get an agreement with me and that partners, sometimes we notice that some CBO are starting implementing the project that we signed agreement under consortium. How do you avoid this issue from another CBO to my office when you come for that consortium partners, I write for a proposal, budget and everything? After everything done and assessment, we notice that some CBO starting the activities within the community. How do you bridge this gap? And also, which type of MOU signed between me and other organizations for the issue of that consortium? Thank you so much, and I'm really happy to hear you and advise. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That is a common problem, and it's just about dishonesty, where you do a lot of legwork and then some other organization takes what you're doing and they start implementing, and they actually even apply for the grants and probably even get them. I will start by saying that as a small organization, you have to be, you have to be also very, very, very cautious with who you're partnering. You have to really, as much as possible, find out as much detail with them, not even because of the fact that they would use you to raise money. It's because of what that partnership can also become in future. It can come back and harm you. So for us, I think I'm also going to circle back to what we have been doing at tuiFUND. For us, we really take our time before we get into partnerships. We have multiple meetings. So as an organization, create like a checklist, create your checklist of what constitutes a good partner for you. And be very, again, be very detailed, be very thorough with that checklist. And always use that checklist when a conversation is coming between, for example, an organization that wants to get into a, yes, an MOU or an agreement, and take your time, have as many meetings as possible with these organizations. check them out. Where are they? Where are their physical locations? What have they been able to achieve in the past? Being very diligent at that point will help you avoid this. I'm tempted to say that you can sign an NDA, but our agreements are as good as the two people getting into the agreement. Just because somebody signs a non-disclosure, or it doesn't mean that they will not disclose. I'm going to speak about now Kenya, where I come from, where even litigation around that kind of situation can drag you and even leave you worse off. I don't know how litigation for that in Nigeria looks like. Plus, remember, we are a small organization, so we don't even have the luxury of any arbitration or litigation. So it still comes down to your due diligence, and yes, still have the services of a lawyer. Remember, there are so many lawyers again who will do this work pro bono. Like I said earlier, look, knock doors, ask. I always say ask. What's the worst that would happen? Someone will say no, and you're like, okay, no, we will rise to fight another day. Someone will say yes. So ask. If your need is legal, reach out to legal organizations that are in the development space, or even not in the development space. You might reach out to an organization that is actually interested in getting in a development space. So ask for pro bono. You're small, so it's okay to ask for the support. So any documents that you're signing, any agreements that you're signing, let them have someone in legal have a look at them. But most importantly, it's your organization. You have created it. You're sweating for it. You love it. It's your baby. You know exactly what you want for that organization. So create a checklist and don't feel guilty. Don't feel that if now I don't get into this partnership with tuiFUND, I'm gone. No, sit with tuiFUND and say, like in the past, I have sat in meetings where I have said, no, this is a very good MOU, but this and this and this do not work for our good. So if we cannot have a middle ground, or if it cannot be removed completely from the terms, then it's okay. We leave it. We say not everything is for us. So I think for you, Sunosi, do your due diligence. Do your diligence. Have meetings, and create a checklist for yourself, and create the NDA, the non-disclosure, because then that ensures that I cannot disclose anything about what we are conversing, but then let also legal help you to get the proper caveats and the proper language.
Good evening, ma'am. I want to buy bread. Bread, 50-50.
All right, then we have Stella and then Sevo.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am.
Good
I really
evening.
appreciate all you have been saying. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay. For us, in Nigeria, a lot of us are small and medium-sized organizations, but we are doing a lot in the community at the grassroots level. But the challenge we have is that a lot of us are not able to attract big donors, probably because of our governance structure. So what do you advise? What kind of structure or books do you advise that organizations like ours should put in place to be able to attract big donors and be able to meet up with their eligibility criteria? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stella. One of the biggest disadvantages that grassroots organizations across the world, and when I say the world, I say most of the recipients, so Africa, some parts of South America, some parts of Eastern Europe, some parts in Asia, one of the biggest disadvantage that we have is that those big donors get into bilateral relationships with our governments. So for example, Stella, if your organization is in the space of WASH, water, sanitation, health, the big donor is not going to be looking at the small organization. The big donor is in some bilat with government, and a whole lot of funding is then put into government. And then it starts, trickling down to us. So that is one of the biggest, disadvantages for us. And when we are in conferences, and some of the papers that in the last 5 years have been coming out has been such conversations, I think you probably have had terms like decolonizing aid, because those kind of bilateral relationships, they go back to the histories that, Africa and, how it was colonization. So aid is still also it needs a lot of decolonization. So those are conversations that have been had, are still going on. Second, even if the organization, for example, the UN and the likes, they are not having bilaterals with government. Now, when we then get them out, and now we want them to be front-facing, to face with the organizations on the, I like saying, we are the organizations at the grassroots. We are the ones who are interacting with the change and the challenges that go on, that happen in the community. But then we then have organizations that are not, we're not facing each other in these conversations. For that, it's because of what does our budget look like, as a small organization. What you might find as a big budget for you is too low for these organizations. In the space of startups and, that level of tech fundraising, we call it the ticket price. The ticket price for a small organization, it is so low. And so whilst you're looking for that big organization, they're not looking for you because your budget is so low, your ask is so low. And for them, ask and impact, they have a correlation. So that's a second disadvantage that we have been able to experience. Then the third that I can say is, makes us not be seen by those bigger organizations. Like even us at tuiFUND, we would be interested in being regranted by, GIZ, so that we are able to, put the money into our organizations. But then are we in GIZ's radar? Maybe not, maybe yes. And how can we make sure that we're in their radar? So it's like, for example, for you, Stella, your organization, how are you positioning it? Which conversations have you been in? When you're mapping your donors, are you mapping your donors according to what they are looking for, or are you mapping your donors according to what my organization is looking for? Maybe that's something that perhaps, Stella, you could answer. When you're mapping for donors, is it about them or is it about your organization?
Well, I want to believe is vice versa. In as much as it's about my organization, my what I also want to do must align with whatever the donor wants to fund. So for instance, if I'm into education, which is what I'm into, I'll probably look for a donor that has interest in education. But majorly what I'm even asking for is, as an organization, what do I need to for me to be able to attract such donors? Like in form of a governance structure. Some people will ask for instance, ask for audited accounts. Those are just one of the things that's a requirement. What other things apart from that do I need to put in place as an organization for me to attract a donor?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I think the first, what you've answered, that's actually a proper way of doing it. So I wanted you to answer, then I go to the, the governance questions that you've asked. Yes. So the organizations that will ask for your statutories, the registration, tax compliance, and your audited, your audited books, because they want to see how are you managing resources. So already those are really important for you. There are other organizations or donors that want to see what your history of fundraising looks like. How much money have you been able to attract to your organizations over the year? So if you have that, it is good to be able to have that compiled, in readiness. Others will also want to see the impact. So your organization, have you put together a tool that you use to measure impact? Because you can measure impact quantitatively, qualitatively. So what are you using so that if this donor is saying, okay, in the space of education, can you tell us how it was when you started and where you are? So again, that is something that makes you also attractive to donors, because you're being able to be very clear on, impact. Then what next? And that is something sometimes our organizations are not able to respond because you have a short-term project, or even the donor has got funding for 1 year. But it's also very important as an organization to have what next after that project cycle or that project has closed. Where do you want to go? That puts your organization also really top of mind to donors. So those, I hope I've answered you, Stella. So those are some of the governance articles that, say documents that you can have. I'm going to share some resources around governance and, in relation to donors, and she can share with you guys so that you're able to see what the documentation, what governance looks like for different donors. Some other donors are very keen on how is your organization constituted? Do you have a board? Do you have staff? So it varies, but I'm going to send some resources to Fola and she can share with you about that. It's quite wide. I hope that helps, Stella. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much, Wambui. Thank you so much for this insightful session. I remember you sharing with me what data mining was last year. So
yeah.
it's wonderful to learn from your wealth of experience. And I think we don't have any other question. So in the absence of, no questions at the moment, I would like to say a big thank you to you for giving out, this time to mentor everyone in this room. And I also want to find out if you're going to be open to our mentees, the fellows, to, reaching out to you personally in case they have any question or something, maybe they want to share in terms of fundraising. Because I must tell you that fundraising is one of, it's kind of complicated for us in Nigeria. So most non-profit organizations find it very difficult to fundraise. I know it's a whole lot. In fact, most small organizations, they don't, throughout the year, you might not see any fundraising or anything on their page or something. So, and it's a great opportunity to connect with you, in this kind of platform. So would also appreciate if we can continue this, this relationship.
Thank you.
So
Thank
I
you
hope
so
you're
much.
open to that.
Yeah,
So
thank
can we
you.
share your email?
Yes.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. So we can call it a day. Thank you all for joining the call this evening.
Thank you, everyone, and all the best.
All right.
Thank
So,
you.
good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.